Mayor Kumas, members of council, I'm Jim Golden, the city's Director of Finance. This is one of our tape presentations of our priority-based budgeting updates. Priority-based budgeting is an approach to budgeting that we've undertaken over the last few years that evaluates our city programs against the desired results that were identified by the City Council, as well as some key program attributes that are a part of priority-based budgeting. The desired results that were identified by the City Council for the organization for community programs were vibrant amenities and opportunities for all, safe community, a reliable, innovative, and resilient infrastructure, and thriving economic climate. And on this slide, you could see the weighting that was applied to these four desired results by our community through community input that was gathered in 2014. The desired results for governance programs were also identified by the City Council, and they include ensuring timely, responsive, and efficient operations, supporting city operations to be their best, providing clear, inclusive, transparent leadership and collaboration, and developing and maintaining strong partnerships, following local, state, and federal rules, regulations, and mandates, protecting, investing in, and valuing the city's human and physical capital, and prudently managing and responsibly leveraging public funds. Besides these desired results, all of the city's programs are measured against program attributes. And the priority-based budgeting program attributes were identified by the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting that pioneered this approach. The attributes that are used include the mandate to provide a program, reliance on the city to provide the program, the cost recovery of the program, and the portion of the community that is served by the program. So each of our programs are measured against each of these four attributes, as well as their ability to impact the desired results. We have, citywide, we have 1,244 programs that have been identified in this process. 527 of those are in the general fund. And then within those 1,244, we have 737 distinct programs. So we have a number of programs that are offered in multiple areas of the city, different funds as well as divisions and departments. So there is some repetition, but overall there's 737 distinct programs. Also, these 1,244 programs can be broken down that 1,082 of them are community-oriented, while the remaining 162 are governance-type programs. After all the programs are scored against the desired results and the attributes, they are then given an overall score, and they are then placed in quartiles, quartile 1 through 4, with the highest scoring programs placed in the first quartile and the lowest scoring programs placed in the fourth quartile. And they are placed across these four quartiles through a process of standard deviation. So what we're doing is we have been presenting priority-based budgeting updates to the council. We did our first 3 in person. We're taping the balance of the remaining 10 presentations. And so you'll be getting 10 different priority-based budgeting updates taped delivered to you. We have focused on 3 of the attributes through the presentations that we made to the council. The remaining updates will be on the last attribute and the 9 desired results that were identified. And we'll go through, take each of the updates, we'll go through how each program is influencing the attributes or the results. Okay, so this is the priority-based budgeting update number 13. It's the final priority-based budgeting update. And we are looking at the 5th of our 5 governance results definitions. This one is prudently manage and responsibly leverage public funds. And we act with the highest integrity and ethics. So this is
a combination of two of the results definitions. So what the City Council did last year is that they defined responsible internal operations and governance with 7 different result definitions that are shown here on this results map. So the 7 definitions circle the responsible internal operations and governance here. And in this case, in a couple of cases, we combined 2 of the individual result definitions for scoring purposes to streamline the scoring process, so that we ended up with 5 result definitions in the governance area. So we took, where we could, a couple of result definitions that were closely linked. So in this case, we have taken the 2 that are shown here on this slide in circles in white. We act with the highest integrity and ethics, and public funds are prudently managed and responsibly leveraged. So we have combined those 2, and we are, for the purpose of brevity, referring to this one as the public funds result. So each of our individual governance programs has been scored against these 5 results definitions. And in doing so, we are measuring how each program is able to influence the city's ability to have successful accomplishment of the desired result. So we score the programs based on that influence from 0 to 4, with 4 being the highest level of influence, where a program is essential or critical in achieving the desired result, and in this case, the desired result being the public funds result. So a score of 4 means that it would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, for the city to achieve the overall desired result if it didn't offer that program. A score of 3 for an individual program means that it has a strong influence on achieving the desired result. A score of 2 means that it just has some influence on achieving the desired result. And a score of 1 means that it has minimal influence on achieving the desired result. So while that program might influence the result, the city really could most likely still achieve the overall result, even if the program did not exist. And then a score of 0 means that an individual program has no influence at all on achieving the desired result of in this case, our desired result of public funds. So once again, we are showing you the summary analysis, which is looking at how our organization is structured with all of our departments and non-departments type or offices or divisions shown on the left side. So we are showing all 5 scoring categories here across the chart, and then in the far right column, you see the grand totals by department. So in the case of governance, we only have 162 programs in governance, and $20.75 million of our overall budget goes towards governance. So a lot less programs than we were looking at with community-oriented programs. We have 3 departments or offices that have absolutely no governance programs: municipal court, probation, power and communications, and public safety. So you can see that here on the chart. They're shaded a little bit, and they're shown as 0. But the larger programs, or departments I should say, that have the most programs or cost that in the area of governance are finance, public works and natural resources, and then shared services. And then shared services actually has over half of the overall budget for governance. It has $10.8 million of budget. And in shared services, you'll find ETS, Enterprise Technology Services is what ETS is, and you'll find fleet services. So that is where those budgets will have a large amount of investment in infrastructure, in our computers, and in our equipment. So that is why there's such a large dollar amount, or share of the dollar amount, in shared services. So what we will concentrate here on is looking at, based on each scoring category, to see where the highest amount of programs are concentrated, and then after that, the highest amount of budget. So beginning where a program is essential to the desired result of public funds, we have 6 programs in finance. Where programs have a strong influence on that desired result of public funds, we have 21 programs in public works and natural resources. Where programs have some influence on the desired result, we have 26 programs in shared services. And then where programs have minimal influence on the desired result of public funds, we have 13 programs in finance. And then finally, where there's no influence on the desired result, we have 6 programs in both finance and public works and natural resources. Looking at cost now, cost of programs, again, as I mentioned previously, shared services is over 50% of the budget, so they show up often in this cost category. Shared services has $4.8 million of programs that are essential to the desired result of public funds. And then for programs that have a strong influence on the result, Public Works and Natural Resources has $2.8 million of programs. Under programs that have some influence on the desired result, you've got shared services again at $4.1 million. Where programs have some influence, though minimal, on the desired result, $1.3 million in the finance area. And then where programs have no influence on the desired result, the largest cost falls in the non-departmental area at $435,000. Okay, so now what we're going to do is look at just the general fund. So out of the 162 governance programs, 121 of them fall in the general fund. And then 13.65 million of that $20.6 million budget, 13.65 million of it is in the general fund governance program. So we're going to look at those general fund governance programs and how they influence the public funds result. And we're going to use the resource alignment diagnostic tool for that purpose. So that's the RAD tool, which I will call up here. And so you can follow this in the prioritization update that you've been given with this taping. And this page, or this screenshot, is on page 10 of the prioritization update. And this screenshot is for general fund governance programs that have that are essential to the public funds desired result. So we have 12 programs that are essential, 1.34 million of the budget. That's 9.82% of the overall general fund governance budget of 13.6 million. You see in this case that we have, well, what we show here on this graph is how each of our individual programs score overall. So there's 4 quartiles, 1 through 4, the highest quartile for the highest scores. And this score is not just based on how it influences the public funds result, but how it influences all the 4 attributes and all 5 of the desired results related to governance. So in this case, we have 10 programs that fall into quartile 1 for their overall scores. And that is for a total budget of $1.27 million. And then we have 1 program in quartile 2 for $45,000 and 1 program in quartile 3 for $19,000. So bear with me a second and I will change the filter here so we can look at those programs that have strong influence on the public fund desired result. And this is on page 11 of your update. We have 21 programs in this category, a little over $4 million of budget, which is 29.6% of our overall budget for general fund governance programs. So of these programs, we have 6 programs that fall into quartile 1 for $1.188 million. We have 9 programs falling into quartile 2 for $1.29 million. We have 5 programs in quartile 3, $1.426 million. And then there is 1 program shown in quartile 4 for $138,000. So change the filter again, and then what we will now be looking at is the screenshot on page 12. And this is looking at those programs that have some influence on the public fund's desired result. So in this case, there are 39 programs. It's $5.5 million of budget. It's over 40% of the general fund governance budget. We have 9 programs that fall into quartile 1 for $1.14 million, 15 in quartile 2, that's $1.7 million, and then we have 14 in quartile 3 for almost $2.6 million. And then there's 1 program shown in quartile 4 for $35,000. Changing the score once more to the score of 1, which is those programs that have a minimal influence on the desired result of public funds. And you can find that on page 13. So now in this case, we have 33 programs in this category, $1.85 million overall budget. It's a 13.6% of our general fund's governance budget. So we have, in this case, 1 program for $79,000. We have in quartile 1. We have 5 programs in quartile 2 for $238,000, and 11 programs in quartile 3 for $1.16 million. And finally, we have 16 programs in quartile 4 at $375,000. And again, as I've mentioned in previous updates, when it comes to governance programs, it's hard for these governance programs to influence a number of the desired results because they're so diverse, and so the results are. And so you will find that there are more programs with an overall score that's landing them in the 3rd and 4th quartile. So now looking on page 14 of your update, this is the programs that have no influence on the desired result of public funds. We have 16 programs, $901,000 budget, 6.6% of the overall general fund governance programs budget. Now in this case, there are no programs in the 1st quartile. We have 3 in the 2nd quartile for only $57,000. We have 2 in quartile 3 for $27,000. And then in quartile 4, there are 11 programs, and it's for $816,000. So looking at the last 2 screenshots, what we can really conclude is that there's 40.5% of the general fund governance expenses and 20.2% of the budget that are for programs that either have minimal or no influence on the public fund's desired result. So that's 49 programs overall, $2.76 million that have minimal or no influence on that desired result. All right then, so once again now, as I did with the last update, for this final results update, I'm going to take you to the detail that is following the screenshots and the prioritization update. And I want to give you some examples on how to make the data that we're giving you a little bit more useful. So those, the prioritization update has 2 lists accompanying it after the screenshots. And these are shorter lists because there's only 162 programs overall. And the first list is of the general fund programs, so over 140 programs. And then the remaining 20 or so programs are in the all other funds list. And we've sorted them in there by how they score against the public funds result first, and then we sort them by department and division, and then by the overall quartile that each individual program score falls into. So I'm going to take you back to the RAD tool and the last screenshot that we were looking at, which you find in page 14 of the prioritization update. And again, this is the general fund programs that have no influence on the public funds result. So taking a look here, in this case, we're going to look at the 11 programs shown here for $816,000 that are quartile 4 programs. So if you go to page 18 of your prioritization update, you'll find on that page, on the second half of that page or second 2/3 of that page, you'll find all the listing of all those programs, which is the 16 programs that we show on this RAD tool screenshot that have no influence on the desired result. So we said that there's 11 of those programs that actually fall into quartile 4. So if you go across the page to about 3/4 of the way, you'll find a column that is titled Quartile Group, and you can find each of the individual programs that fall into quartile 4. So now what you find again is that many of these programs are either are in the finance area or else they're in the non-departmental area. So these programs, they have no influence on the public fund's desired result. And then they have a low score overall because they don't score very well against individual attributes and results. Looking at some of these programs in quartile 4, you'll find in finance, we have, for instance, the information desk or pick up and deliver mail to city departments. They have very low influence on the desired results that we've identified. There are things that we do. It's a question of, can we stop doing these type of things? Or maybe we should stop putting any additional resources towards these things. We can analyze these type of programs to identify maybe there are different ways to do these things. Could we combine them with other services? If it's a quartile 4 service, these are the type of questions that we can ask about them to see whether we can approach them differently. Looking a little bit further down the list, you find in the non-departmental area that we have employee activities, employee recognition. They're falling into quartile 4. Obviously, these are areas that have very little influence on most of these desired results related to governance. And the last one after that is sick conversion. And sick conversion is a benefit that we pay to our employees, and it's $178,000. So it's a pretty significant amount compared to the rest of the programs on this page. But maybe other than impacting our human and physical capital, it probably has very little impact on all of our desired results. So just giving you an idea of how to use these lists to check out what's behind these numbers that we're showing you on these RAD tool screenshots. You can go to these lists and ask these type of questions. Throughout these updates, we've really presented you 13 updates that are followed by these large lists. And so we've got all of our programs were showing up for the individual attributes, the 4 attributes. We have all programs listed after that. Then we had for our 4 results definitions related to community-oriented programs, we had actually over 1,000 programs listed after those 4 results. And then again, after the governance programs, we had over 160 programs. So each of those are going to show up in about 8 or 9 different areas, in the governance results and the attributes, or they'll be in the community-oriented results and the attributes. So you'll end up, you could actually look in 8 or 9 different lists. If you're that interested in finding out about a program, you'd be able to see where these individual programs score against each of these individual results based on the information that we've given you at the back of these prioritization updates. So encourage you, if you're interested in finding out more about any of these programs, to do so by looking through those lists. We intend to utilize this information as we go into our next round of budgeting process. Staff's going to return to the council in a few weeks to discuss a couple of the changes that we recommended in these prioritization updates so that we can get your feedback on them so that we will be able to decide whether there'll be changes that need to be implemented in the 2015 process for the 2016 budget, and that might influence and change some scores based on, first, the definition of cost recovery, or how we utilize cost recovery and score it, and secondly, on the definition of infrastructure and whether we would include the wording built infrastructure. So we're going to ask council to give us guidance on those two areas and any other area that you think maybe we have a hole in our existing desired results that we need to plug. So once we get that direction, we'll go forward in rescoring programs for 2016, and we'll have new quartile results to utilize going into 2016 budget process. So you have questions about any of the information I've given you throughout any of these updates, certainly contact me at 303-651-8629, or else email me at jim.golden@longmontcolorado.gov. Thanks for paying attention throughout all of these updates.